Okay, hi guys, welcome. And I just wanted to take a minute to introduce ourselves. This is a new fruition that we're testing the waters out. And my name is Kathleen. For those who haven't come in contact with me yet, and these are two of my fellow colleagues and friends. Bekah's below and Sergio to the left. um, we all, to some extent, practice the healing arts or the mantic arts, and wanted to come together with our own specialties and offer a free a free snippet of what this year might look like, some self-care tools that could be helpful as we navigate through the 2022 Yang Water Tiger year. Um, yeah, so I'm Kathleen. I practice body work, specifically Tuina, acupressure, shiatsu, complementary Eastern modalities. Um, I've studied the romantic art of traditional Chinese Feng Shui, and that is where I met Sergio. Sergio has been a long-time practitioner of Feng Shui through his grandmother's wisdom. We met while we were taking Feng Shui school together, and he's really taken that as a jumping off point to further his knowledge, further his expertise, and being able to offer it today. Below we have a dear friend, Bekah, who is such a pillar in the community, and she has such an amazing heart. She practices Western herbalism and integrates her lineage through that. She is also a community organizer, offering herbs to those that need it the most. Practicing in the Bay Area, featuring Maloney Land, offers one-to-one consults, and sometimes I see her out in the community as well. Sergio offers consults uh, all over the country. He is based in Southern California, and I am based in the Bay Area as well. I run my practice in Berkeley. So without further ado, let's get started. Sergio is going to introduce some of the qualities that we might see or are already seeing clearly so much in this upcoming year. And we'll take it from there.
Hello, Kathleen and Bekah, how are you? No, so I find it interesting that as we are trying to set up our recording today, and just through the process, I've already noticed some of the patterns that just in a small scenario that really kind of like says what we might encounter this year. And I'm sure a lot of people out there you know, who are into astrology, Chinese astrology, or Feng Shui, or any kind of metaphysics subject, they are already looking up. Oh, what is the 2022 is bring us, in terms of the overall forecast. Okay, and there's so many Feng Shui masters, practitioners, that are doing forecasts. And I remember I purposely chose not to do any forecast because to me, it feels like all the forecasts lean towards something a bit more like a cautionary tale. Okay, and I posted something on my Instagram. Okay, and I'm gonna share something with you really quick. Okay, so let me share my screen with you.
And I just want to emphasize that we definitely are running into some water tiger energy right now, as Sergio said, approaching this recording.
So I posted this right before the Lunar New Year change, okay? And I did talk about how every single Feng Shui master, are trying to give up predictions and based on their knowledge. And to me, water tiger year, yes, it will bring different certain energy of tiger, you know. So we don't need to go into detail what tiger is, okay? And it's not just any kind of water, but it's more a very active, powerful, you know, type of water. It's yang water, okay? In Feng Shui, there's different type of water. There's yang water or yin water, okay? So imagine the force of tiger with the force of yang water. So it's something that, you know, that's going to be a really powerful year, okay? Really almost in the sense that very unpredictable, okay? And in Chinese Feng Shui, how they do the annual prediction, it is really based on not just one principle. It is based on multiple way of prediction, okay? But what I said here was, regardless of the positive outcome or negative outcome, it is just part of life. And it gave me the inspiration of tiger, okay? Because I like to watch, you know, safari videos on YouTube. And a lot of time I would see, you know, water, taking a sip of water in the lake, right? And sometimes there'll be like hidden danger in the lake, like crocodile or whatever, right? And those are predators to tigers as well, or to tiger cubs, okay? So I've noticed tigers, when they're sipping the water, they're usually really careful, okay? They taken this approach, okay, while they're sipping water. It's almost feel like if they don't drink the water, they would definitely, you know, die from thirst, you know? But if they drink the water and if they're not careful, they might end up become lunch to the crocodiles, you know? So I think it is telling us, hey, no matter what's going on this year, we have to be brave. Tigers to me is one of the bravest animal, you know, on earth. We have to be brave, okay? We have to proceed with caution, you know, but also with bravery at the same time. Because of course, you know, there's always different kind of unpredictable scenario laying ahead of us, regardless how the fortune telling is. So let's start out how the ancient Chinese predict annual forecast. So once again, tiger, since I was growing up, okay, this is something that I know all my life, okay? You look at all these books, okay, these red books with Chinese character on it. We literally get this, okay? In Taiwan, we get this from the temples, from Feng Shui masters, or even we can buy it from the bookstore. You know, if you get a free version, it's much, you know, less detail. But if you get a paid version, obviously there's more information in there. This is called the Chinese Feng Shui Almanac, okay? And the intention of this book, it's kind of like a calendar, and with information of each individual day, what type of information, what type of energy it has during that particular day, what type of energy it had during that particular month, and overall energy during that particular year. And in the first page, there's always something like this. You'll see something like this, okay? I know to a lot of people, this round circle doesn't mean anything, okay? But this round circle literally represents our Earth, our universe. And they thought of this back in the ancient time. And they will have different type of poems written down, okay? So the poem was written down as some type of forecast to help ancient Chinese or ancient people to navigate their life throughout the whole year. And this is called the Yellow Emperor's Earth Mother Sutra. And then as we go on, I will explain to you the little circle. What does it mean? Okay. So based on the sutra, okay, it kind of just said, okay, this year overall, doesn't matter if you're a nobleman or farmers, okay, you will get benefited this year. You will get prosperous, you know, you'll be much better the year than last year, okay? Spring and summer, it's all abundant and fruitful, okay? And even during the fall and winter, the flow is still fairly smooth. Okay. And I find it interesting how it started to be this, talking about springtime, summer, winter, and fall. Okay, how everything is very, very, it seems to be a calm year, right? But as you read the poem later on, okay, it goes on to about, yes, we will get abundance of prosperity, okay, but beware of livestock getting sick. In the ancient time, livestock represents wealth, represents money. What does it mean when livestock getting sick? It just means they could be possible or some type of economical, changes, some type of economical crisis happening this year. Okay. So what does it tell us? Yes, we have the opportunity to make money, to accumulate wealth this year, but definitely prepare for the worst because the year energy of the water tiger, okay, because of its strong forces coming into us this year. Once we have something good, we need to put something aside to save for the raining day. So do you guys have any particular question, here before I continue?
No, it's good. I think I had maybe said this before, but it's interesting to me, just like the view of time, meaning that previous years we had rat year 2 years ago, and then we had the ox year where it was what felt like lessons leading up to this moment. Like the rat year is all about putting storage away and like putting stuff in little places everywhere, and now we're really called to utilize that lesson that was available just a few years ago.
No, yeah, because how the ancient Chinese calculate time is based on something called heavenly stem and earthly branches, and each cycle is about 60 years, okay? And we literally just had a beginning of the cycle in 2020, year of the metal rat, okay? And I find it interesting this year, every month this year, the element of the month versus the branch of the month, okay? It represents, it's exactly this, I don't want to say exactly the same, but it's kind of like a bit of a preview for the next 12 years incoming. For example, this month, the energy of this month is young water tiger as well. So we're in the young water tiger, in the young water tiger year, okay? So the energy is literally double. In Feng Shui, water is associated with emotion and traveling, and also, wealth at the same time, okay? And especially when it's young water, okay, it's much more forceful, it's much more powerful. The emotions, we will encounter different type of emotional fluctuation up and down. And I personally have encountered that already. I found, yes, in the past few years, okay, and people's emotion is being much more, has bigger fluctuation. And that has a lot to do with, that we are in a transitional period or changing into the new period in 2024. But in a smaller scale, this particular year, everything would be expanded, our emotion. Someone just confronted us out of the blue while we were walking our dog in the neighborhood for something that is so strange. And so I was walking, my partners, Kevin and I, we were walking our dog in our own gated community. And then some guy who doesn't even live in the community, in his car, he chose to confront us and asking us, what were we doing in the community? And he was really confrontational. And we're like, walking our dog? And he was like, who gave you the right to walk your dog in the community and to look at other people's houses? And we're like, well, we're just walking our dog in the community like normal people. And we found out he didn't even live in the community. He was some stranger just accidentally happened to be in our community, and he even got into his car and followed us for almost 2 blocks. We got all freaked out about it in our own community, which is usually really safe and protected, and that was one of the really strange incidents that hey, it's the energy, overall energies, people are gonna get agitated much more than usual, for no reason. Why did that guy behave that way? I don't know. Why did he behave that way? I'm sure he doesn't know either. And also in terms of communication, I already found interesting communication issues. I had to travel to Sacramento for Feng Shui consultation this month on 21st. And as I was communicating with my partner, Kevin, he was saying, oh my God, he can't because he has, performance on the 21st and he has to be in the concert hall, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, how come all this time when I talk about the scheduling consultation for my clients, he never mentioned anything. So we got into a bit of an argument because of that confusion. And I found out yesterday, oh my God, he thought I was talking about March 21st. And I was talking about February 21st. So there is going to be communication issues this year overall. So just in my own personal experiences, when we communicate, or even today, when we are trying to set up our Zoom session, there was different obstacles we have to go through. Okay. Yes, we will, reach our destination, but overall energy this year is about conquering obstacles before we reach the destination. But at the same time, people ask me, but isn't that part of life? I think, yeah, it is part of life. Okay, all the different Feng Shui masters talk about political instabilities, talk about economical crisis, health crisis, and then if we look back historical events, okay, the year that has a similar, heavenly stem and earthly branches relationship, okay, or it doesn't matter which year, there's always some type of political instabilities, okay? So I think pointing to the stories, regardless of, what year, it's just part of life, and referring to what Kathleen said earlier, it's always good to have something safe in a cushion to prevent what might, happen that we don't see in the future.
Thank you for the insight, Sergio. Sergio offers such on-point wisdom when it comes to 4-pillar astrology. Sometimes it feels like I'm being read, but it's funny that you mentioned things like frustration and communication and all those things, because if you look at the 5 elements, the tiger animal belongs to the wood element, which one of the strong emotions of wood is frustration and agitation. If you think about in a lot of parts of where we're about right now, where we're living, like spring is starting to mix around and swirl around and grow, and with that, oftentimes in expansion, you run into obstacles, right? Otherwise, you're just staying put, and you're not running into obstacles in that spot, but you're not expanding. One of the tools that my teacher gave us for things like emotional instability, specifically around rage or anger or frustration, was to hold the middle finger. That is the finger that's associated with anger. So instead of flipping the bird, you just softly cradle it. And it tends to alleviate some of those emotions. Um, in terms of supporting ourselves and in our bodies as we navigate this year, again, we talked about a little bit of this idea of unpredictability. And even as Sergio mentioned, when we were trying to get this set up, like I'm in a coffee shop right now. You guys might hear this significant amount of background noise, and there were certain detours that I had to take to get to this point in time. But always trying to remember to ground myself in any moment helps. If we think about the soles of our feet and like really anchoring into that, there's a point that's on the ball of the foot, right in the center between the first and second metatarsal bones. And it's called bubbling spring. It's where we kind of like receive this earthly chi, receive this nourishment to nourish specifically what is our kidneys and our bladder and our water element. This year being a water tiger year, I think this will call upon us using those reserves, and keeping in mind that we are dynamic beings. Although we might feel pretty drained in some moments, if we can stay connected to this infinite source of power, it becomes a little bit easier to stay resourced and stay grounded and not feel so physically, emotionally, mentally drained by all the stimulation. The past 2 years seem like they've been like hopeful for more energy to come about, but then as they unfolded, it seemed to be pretty stagnant still. Like I think we were all like, oh, 2021 is going to be so much better than 2020, and then 2021 passed and we're like, oh, 2021 was not that much different. 2022 is going to be different, and we can feel it already. We can feel this like shaking in our bones, like something's moving, something's brewing. Yeah, I don't know what else to say.
I'm sorry. I want to cut in something. I find it really interesting how, because when we look back, okay, historically, we're in 2022. The last time there's any kind of major war globally was World War II. And keep in mind, I was born in the 70s, and I'm obviously much older than both of you. And both of my parents, my grandparents, who has a really strong influence on me, okay, they all went through, especially my grandmother, she went through World War I and World War II. They went, and both of my parents, they went through multiple wars, okay, in Taiwan. And I remember even when I was a little kid growing up in Taiwan, we were trying to practice running from school to the shelter, to the bombing shelter, because we were always taught that China would attack us someday with the bomb. So I remember as a little kid, we would in the middle of the class when we hear a siren going on, we just have to run all the way to the bombing shelter, for safety. So, I mean, the point to the story is because there hasn't, I think in particular this country, there hasn't been any major, really catastrophe, and I'm not saying we should have that. No, I don't wish any bad thing on anybody, but I guess there is a saying that when we are too comfortable, we don't know how to handle difficult situation, and in some way, having this pandemic happen in 2020, okay, and when we look around, even till today, and people are still arguing and fighting about whatever different political reason out there, okay, but at the same time, in the individual smaller level, I think we are thrive, under a very compromising, difficult situation, that we will survive. And I always tell my friends or even my clients, hey, we are not like running, hiding from the bomb or whatever kind of, things happening right now. We still have running water, we still have electricity, we have all this internet that we can go on, to read different kind of social media news. So it is still, our life is not that bad compared to, what other people have to encounter, So I think it's, yeah, I guess in some ways, we are still very blessed in many levels.
Yeah. And then one thing that I just thought about too is well, one, obviously, like emphasis on whatever life that we are living is a blessed life. And I know that some are more privileged than others in many ways. And acknowledging that, it could always be better, it could always be worse. But also this idea of whatever does come to us being fluid and being able to adapt. When we think about our tendons, our ligaments, our joints, it's really what animates us and being able to move from side to side. Our bones kind of hold our structure. And then as we emerge into the wood element, we start to really be able to animate and transform and move from side to side and twist and turn and all those things. I'm sure Bekah has a lot of herbs in her toolbox that she could tell us for this all the things that we'll need ahead.
Yeah. Well, I love hearing from the two of you, Kathleen and Sergio, so much, really bringing that wisdom from Feng Shui, from traditional Chinese medicine, ways of understanding our bodies, understanding the cosmos. And the perspective that I'm bringing is that of a, quote unquote, Western herbalist, but I really like to think of it as place-based herbalism with respect and reciprocity to the plants, to the indigenous peoples of the land that I'm living on. For me, that's Ohlone land. And to really just tune into the plants, to talk to plants, because as we think about kind of these forces that are happening in the year, ways we can take care of our bodies, ways we can take care of our hearts, the plant world is such an incredible resource to us to really turn to for help. The plants have always helped people. Every single traditional culture, all cultures, we've worked with plants. They've always been our first medicines, and they support us on that physical level, that emotional level, a spiritual level too. So when I think of the Yang Water Tiger year and the things that you've been saying are so resonant, I'm thinking about movement and kind of circulation and what you were saying, Kathleen, about kind of that flexibility and adaptability. There's a lot of herbs that can support that. One that really came to mind for me is nettles. Nettles is a really common herb that grows all over this country, United States, Turtle Island, this beautiful land. And it is an herb that can be used for so much. It's a very nutritious herb. A lot of people eat it, actually. If you've encountered nettles out in the world, you may know that they're kind of spiky. So you have to be careful when you're actually interacting with them. It's helpful to have long gloves. But you can saute them and wilt them and then eat them. And they're so delicious and so yummy. They have lots of good nutrients, minerals that our bodies need. So thinking of that deep nourishment, like you were saying too, Kathleen, of just how do we really nourish ourselves when so many things are happening around us? We do have to take care of our bodies with that good physical nourishment. And nettles too, a lot of the herbs are what we call diuretics, meaning they kind of help move things through. A diuretic often means you have to pee a lot. And nettles are an herb that moves things through your body. So I think of that a lot in terms of this year of keeping things circulating, keeping things moving, even again, related to that water element, the water of our own body, right? Just keeping things in motion and not, stagnant. So kind of developing a healthy relationship with the waters and the rhythms and moving things through. The other plant that really came to me as we've been talking about this year and the different qualities is rose. And I think of rose in the sense of, when there's this level of unpredictability, we do have to find our own center within that, right? We have to find our ways to ground when there's a lot going on. And it's true that that's going to be always, right? That's a quality for every year to some extent. And I I think this year is really showing itself to be a year where that quality is there. You know, there's going to be different things going on. So how do we find the center within ourselves? How do we find our own grounding? And the reason that I thought of rose is because, to me at least, it's a very peaceful flower. It's a flower that brings a lot of joy. Um, there's a lot of lessons to rose. For me, it's also beautiful that, you know, has this beautiful flower and then also thorns on the stem. So it's also about healthy boundaries too. But that thorn, you know, you kind of got to be careful. You have to approach the flower a certain way, otherwise you're going to get cut, you know? So I think a rose is just like a plant and a flower that we can tune into to learn from, like to cultivate peace, to cultivate joy. I think a lot about meditation in this year and equanimity. For me, that's one of the best ways to practice equanimity and finding center and groundedness. And rose and meditation for me match each other. So when we think about these plants, you might be asking like how to work with them. And for me, there's so many ways to work with plants. Just walking up to a rose bush and gazing upon it and appreciating its beauty and taking that in and taking a moment to appreciate beauty, that's medicine. That's a way to take in the beautiful medicine of the plants. Of course, there's ways you can work with plants internally. So there's different preparations, herbal preparations. One is a tincture. That's often an alcoholic extraction of a plant. We can make teas, of course. And so some of you may be familiar with drinking rose tea, drinking nettle tea. Those are great, nutritious teas that are safe for a lot of people too. And, you know, we can put plants on our body. So with rose, I could take, if I have access to a rose, I might, you know, put it right on my heart and just breathe it in, maybe even meditate with it on my heart. So it's, you know, we can be creative. And I know that depending on where we live and what's going on in our lives, some of us have a lot of access to plants. Some of us might feel like we don't. So I think, you know, finding special ways to connect, whether we're surrounded by a garden in abundance, or maybe we're, you know, we don't feel that, we can probably find some ways to bring the plants in with compassion and gratitude for ourselves and others, to just spend a little bit of time working with them. Again, taking them into our bodies, just sitting still with them, appreciating them. You know, we can really call on the plants for help in this year. So I named two plants that I'm thinking of, rose and nettle. And also if you're familiar with plants, you know, you can just think about all the different qualities that we've talked about. What are the plants that help you kind of stay in motion? What are the plants that help you feel centered and grounded? What are the plants that help you rest, like, and help you move? I think of that with tiger, right? Tigers are resting and then they move really suddenly and quickly and with a lot of strength and power. So if you're familiar with herbs, you can also think about, for you, what are those personal connotations and associations, and really call those in. So I think that's a really beautiful practice, and a reminder, right? We can really turn to the plants to work in harmony with the year.
So Bekah, I have a question. Would you, I guess in the future, would you be able to show us how to make tea out of flowers safely? I think I would be really, you know, I love to see that. I love to learn that, how to, you know, use different type of flowers and plants and make homemade tea out of them.
Definitely. And I think, you know, that word about safety, you know, we do want to be somewhat cautious with plants. We want to know who the plant is. We want to know generally, is it safe? And then it's important to check in with your own body. You know, if we're pregnant, if we're, you know, chest feeding, if we have certain medical conditions, if we're taking medications, there are some plants that can interact with those. And so we want to be aware of that. So that is important. And that being said, there are a lot of plants that are really, really safe for most people, like chamomile. You know, chamomile is a plant that a lot of people know and love, and it's very powerful. It has a lot of strong medicinal properties in helping us relax and helping ease stomach pain and cramping. And that's safe for everybody, for children, for elders, for, you know, for pregnant people. So there's also herbs you can turn to if you don't know a lot about herbs, where it's like, well, that one is very, very safe. So for instance, chamomile is a great place to start. But yes, I think that's always great to take the time to get to know the herbs and to get to know how to work with them safely too.
Thank you guys. I think the emphasis on yes, there's going to be a lot of movement this year, right? And when you were saying rose, it kind of reminded me of like the grace and delicate nature of the petals of a rose, and how sometimes like the most powerful movements, or like the most inspired movements come from a place of stillness, like how the tiger is still and then it will like leap to action. And then always just a reminder that like tapping into that center within ourselves and like tapping into that stillness within ourselves before we make any movement. And then I think that is the closest way to ensuring that it's aligned with our essence and aligned with our spirit and our heart and all those things. Are there any other things that we should add? I think that there's so much more that we could add, but we could be here for hours.
I can quickly talk about the flying star. Because in Feng Shui, like I said, there's multiple ways to look at the prediction, right? And besides looking at the prediction based on the heavenly stand and earthly branches, okay, one of the most common ways to look at Feng Shui is based on the flying star. And even from the flying star, there's different technique to it, okay? And then this is not, it's how we look at this flying star chart for this particular year. It's just a very generalized way of looking at the overall energy, the relationship at the same time, you know. And I'm going to share the screen really quick. I'm going to talk about the flying star. So as we talk about the Feng Shui, the Chinese almanac, farmer almanac, okay, this is the page that you can find, okay, and what this represents, I can see the number in the middle. They combine both the energy of the relationship between the heavenly stand and earthly branches, and they implement the flying star into it. And what is flying star? Flying star is basically the movement based on the Big Dipper, the relationship of the Big Dipper's movement, relationship to Earth, you know, and how is their position influence our earthly energy. And we look at 5, right? I mean, 5 usually is not, we look at 5 in the middle. And what 5 represent, it doesn't mean center of your home or center of anything. It just means the center in Feng Shui is called a heavenly heart, okay? And when something, a number in the heavenly heart, it usually represents what the overall energy is like for that particular year. So 5 in Feng Shui at this particular time, it has a lot to do with obstacles. You know, it's usually considered a really ominous number, okay, during this time, okay. When number 5 is in is timely, you know, it's actually pretty good, but now number 5 is not timely. So this in relationship to water tiger year, having number 5, and also during the Korean period 8, okay, it really accentuates the energy of this instability, you know, how everything can go really from one extreme to another. And when we look at the energy of the 24, this is something called 24 mountain, okay? In Feng Shui, we break down direction into a micro direction, you know, one direction has 3 different smaller directions. So some of the better direction this year, I would definitely say northwest, south, and northeast. And then, so I think that what we can do is how can we emphasize the better direction and try to minimize the energy of the least auspicious direction. So I know we just hit 1 hour, so yeah.
Sergio is again a wealth of knowledge. I think there's always opportunity to to learn more, especially from a medicine that's dated to thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. I'm gonna put all of our information in some type of comment section or whatnot. So if there's anyone wanting to get more information, they can reach us all. But this is fun.
Yes.
And hopefully everyone watching also enjoyed it. If so, you might see us again.
Much to
Thank
both
you
of
guys. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy Water Tiger Year, everyone.
Water Tiger Year.